If I am ever dealt a rotten hand in life, the one thing that I hope is that I can handle it with the dignity and the professionalism and the class that Daniel Bryan did. What's up, everyone? GoodMicWork back at you. Episode 313 for your Monday Night Raw review for February 8th, 2016. And of course, the big news, Daniel Bryan hanging up the boots. Horribly emotional night. Really didn't want to see this thing at all. It was the first Raw I've missed live in about 8 weeks. I've been home for a lot of them, and I actually wasn't able to be home to see this one. But I was around to see Daniel Bryan's announcement. I was actually staring at Twitter when he tweeted it. And I was probably one of the first people to see it. And I remember just being like, oh man, this is going to be a tough Raw to watch. And I didn't want to come home and watch it because I knew, from interacting with all of you on social media during the show, getting updates from you, what's going on, I knew that it wasn't pretty, in the ring there at the end. And I knew it was very sad. And it's very reminiscent of Edge, what he went through a few years ago, and how sad that was. And this one, stings just as bad because of what a promising future Daniel Bryan had and the fact that he was launched at WrestleMania 30 and he really never got off the ground. That was pretty much it for him. He had, one pay-per-view title defense, and then he forfeited the title. He came back, he won the Intercontinental title, forfeited that, and he's been done ever since. So it just seems like he never got on track once he finally hit it big, and it was a real shame that his injuries piled up the way they did and what an extreme style he worked, and the fact that this is the kind of thing that happens, and it's a harsh reality of this business and how much we love it, is that this can happen to anybody at any time. And when you see people have 20-year careers, 25-year careers, 30-year careers, you have to realize how lucky they are to have made it that long. And plus, in today's day and age, as we'll talk about in a little bit, with a lot of attention and worry being drawn to head injuries and concussions and things like that, this is something that's probably going to be happening a lot more often now. The outpouring of support that he got today on social media was unbelievable, and that's one of the reasons why I was so adamant that this was not a work. I mean, a lot of people, the first thing that came to their mind, and mine as well, was Mark Henry. Now, what year was that? 2013 maybe, when he did that retirement angle and John Cena was out there and he ended up turning on Cena and attacking him, getting a title shot and all of that. As much as I would have liked it to be a work, I found these two situations completely different. This was much more closer to Edge, as far as I'm concerned, than Mark Henry. A lot of people, I think, it was just hope. I was kind of, I wasn't upset that fans were insisting that it was a work. I was just a little bit annoyed by it because it was pretty obvious to me. If they're going to work us, I'm fine with it. And I know anything can happen in WWE, and I guess we didn't know for sure until Daniel Bryan came out, but I knew for sure. I never doubted it for a minute. It would have been nice if it was all a big swerve and everything, but I think if they were going to do that and they were going to swerve us in some major way with Daniel Bryan, it wouldn't involve his very, very real head injuries and the possible and potential brain damage he could have in the future and his concussions and all of that. That's a very serious matter and something that's taken extremely seriously in the WWE, the NFL, pretty much all over the place. And to turn that into an angle, I'm fine with them swerving us and working the audience. I would love it if they did. I mean, maybe if they made it sound like Daniel Bryan was going to retire, maybe if they just announced it on dirt sheets and websites, but never on WWE TV, get all the fans thinking one way, and then just bring Daniel Bryan back randomly as a surprise, maybe a run-in type of deal where nobody saw it coming, they didn't advertise it, talk about it, nothing. To me, that would have been the best way to work the audience. This would have been an extremely poor taste, guys, because Daniel Bryan's injuries are not storyline. They're very, very real. And even if this was a work, he could have came back and gotten another concussion and had to retire anyway. They wouldn't even know how he was going to be able to perform if he did in fact return to the ring. And I thought earlier on in the day, a lot of fans were acting very selfish. There was a lot of anger expressed towards WWE and their doctors because at the same time that this is happening, there's the internet story going around that Daniel Bryan had asked for his release from the company, and they denied him. Now, this might be because he was going to those doctors, like he mentioned in his promo, and they were all saying he's fine. Now, in his promo, he claims that he did another test a couple of days ago, and they discovered some more damage to his brain and the fact that it's a little bit more worse off than he thought. That's his story according to the promo. So if he did ask for his release, that wasn't within the last 2 days. That was probably within the last couple of weeks or months. So this is a lot of new information, and I think it was something that probably came about just in the last maybe few days. I'm glad that Raw happened to be in Seattle. I thought maybe they knew this all along and they were just waiting for Raw to take place in Seattle so Daniel Bryan could go out in front of his hometown and his family and announce his retirement. But according to Daniel, in his promo, he had that test a couple of days ago, and that kind of changed things and made him decide to retire. To me, I don't know the full story. None of us do. I was a little bit disappointed that the fans were acting so selfishly earlier on in the day, expressing their outrage that they're no longer going to be able to see Daniel Bryan in the ring, and WWE is fucking him over, and how evil and cruel the WWE must be for doing this to him. And I find that completely absurd and completely ridiculous. The WWE, look at them. I mean, if there's ever a time that they're not acting selfishly, this is it. Their roster is completely depleted right now. If there was ever a time that they could use a star like Daniel Bryan, this is it. If WWE would have paid this much attention to Chris Benoit as they're doing to Daniel Bryan, Benoit and Nancy and his son may all be alive right now. So even though this feels very unfair to all of us wrestling fans, and we're upset that this young guy that still has a lot of years of wrestling left in front of him is taken away from us so early, I'm right there with you, and I feel your disappointment. But for me, it's more about Daniel Bryan. I'd rather have a retired Daniel Bryan than a dead Daniel Bryan. All I care about is this man's health and this man's life. He has been incredibly good to us as wrestling fans. He has killed himself out there merely to entertain all of us. If he never wrestles another day again in his life, I'll be happy as long as he lives and dies as an old man. That's all I want for anybody like Daniel Bryan or anybody else that I admire, whether it be a friend or a public figure. If I respect you and I admire what you do, that's all I want. I want for you to be taken care of. I remember when, you guys all know that I'm a big Bret Hart fan. I remember when I met him a bunch of years ago, and it was an autograph signing. And I got up there and I said to him, "How are you and how's your family?" And he held on to my hand and didn't let go. And he was like, "You know what? I want to thank you for asking me that." He goes, I don't think anybody's ever asked me how my family is doing." And the look of gratitude in his eyes, I'll never forget. And that's what's so cool about somebody like Daniel Bryan, is he talked about that tonight on Raw, is the gratitude that, he felt and that he received today. Jesus, on social media, everybody, was showing him so much love. That was another reason why I knew it wasn't a work. They're not going to work all these wrestlers. And he had so many people reaching out to him today. It was really touching to see, all this go on throughout the afternoon as we led up to Raw. I was really disappointed I wasn't home to watch this live, because it definitely felt emotional going back and watching the replay of Daniel Bryan's speech and how they opened the show with they announced it right away, told everybody what was going on, had a video package for Daniel Bryan, and he was the main event. They waited the whole 3 hours for him to come out and make his speech. And speaking of his speech, it was just as emotional as we expected. This is like the third or fourth one of these we've seen from Daniel Bryan just in the last 2 years, but this is definitely the most serious one. He's not forfeiting a title this time, he's forfeiting his career. And as a wrestling fan, that absolutely breaks my heart. I mean, I feel the exact same way when Edge announced his retirement. At least with Edge, he was winding down. He was nearing the end. He had already had the Achilles injury. He was probably going to finish out his contract and be done. So at least he was at the end of the road. Daniel Bryan, he could go another 10 years. What is he, in his mid-30s? And he's a small guy, so he can wrestle as long as Shawn did or something like that. So it's only these head injuries that is stopping him from doing this. And it's just such a shame. And his promo was very heartfelt. I liked it. He was funny at times. I mean, did you hear the Brie joke? Oh, my God, how funny was that? Fans started chanting yes, and he's like, "That's what Brie says every night." Hilarious stuff. So Daniel Bryan was trying his best to have fun out there, but at the same time be serious and let everybody know what's going on. He talked about how he didn't want to leave. He talked about how he had his doctor's appointments, and lots of doctors were telling him he was okay, and then he saw a couple more doctors, and, they kind of told him something might be wrong. And when you're fucking around with brain damage, that's just not something you want to mess with. Daniel Bryan, it sounds like he had no choice but to retire. We have seen too many times now with a lot of these deaths, and not only in the WWE but NFL, some people are really suffering because of protocols and awareness of head injuries that weren't in place back then, and they weren't up until recently. So this is going to be a continuing trend. There's going to be a lot of athletes from a lot of generations, WWE guys included, that are probably going to have these problems. I loved all of his shout-outs, talked about what a great guy Kane was and what a good friend to him he was and how smart Kane is. And Kane is a super fucking smart guy. William Regal, who was kind of a mentor to him. That kid, Connor, the poor kid with cancer that passed away right after WrestleMania 30. It was nice to see him talk about him. Talked about the Seattle crowd as well when they hijacked Raw, when they were doing that big ceremony in the ring to unify the titles, and they had all the former champs out there, and the crowd was just chanting Daniel Bryan the whole time and just wouldn't stop. And he talked about how his dad was in the crowd watching, and that was the last time his dad got to see him, and the fans helped make that night special for his dad. And that's why I think it was so cool and professional, Daniel Bryan. The way he was expressing such gratitude to the fans really should be the other way around. He's the one that was entertaining us, but for him to put it all on us like that was really nice to see, and it just shows you what kind of a man, what kind of a person Daniel Bryan is inside. He also talked about his great wife, Brie Bella, who I give some shit to sometimes because of her wonderful catchphrase. But honey, let me tell you, you got your work cut out for you. You've got to be a strong, supporting wife and help Daniel Bryan get through this. And as far as I'm concerned, you can chant or you can yell Brie mode as much as you want. All in all, I think it's a really sad day for wrestling. Been pretty much bummed out all day. I even had a pretty nasty Super Bowl hangover. Really got drunk last night, which I usually don't do. I usually don't drink that much, although I can handle my beer, but I drank a little bit more than usual, and I kind of felt like shit when I was on the computer doing some work, and I had Twitter up, and as soon as I saw Daniel Bryan's announcement, my hangover went away. It completely went away. I was just flooded with emotions, and kind of things got put in perspective and became a little bit more important. And I, was pretty much down on myself all day. Just really felt bad for Daniel Bryan and wasn't really looking forward to watching the Raw or promo that he was going to cut, talking about all of this. But, I'm glad that I did. He did a great job with it. He handled it so well. I mean, what a guy. A lot of people couldn't handle that and couldn't face a difficult situation head on with that much courage and everything. And Daniel Bryan, he did it. He went out there and did what he had to do. And I'm very proud of him. And I thank him for, all the years of entertainment and the great wrestling. And I'm going to take it upon myself to get to know Daniel Bryan before his WWE days. I knew a little bit, probably saw a Ring of Honor match here or there of Daniel Bryan before he came to the WWE, but I'm not as knowledgeable about the man's career pre-WWE as I should be, and I'm going to take it upon myself to learn and watch some of his matches and watch how great he was. A lot of people were calling him the greatest wrestler in the world before he even came to WWE. So I'm sure I speak for everybody who wishes Daniel Bryan nothing but the best. I don't know what the future holds. I mean, with wrestling retirements, Edge is a guy that's not coming back, but I don't know. I mean, would this be 100% for sure that he can never come back? Is this like a neck injury where no matter how much time passes, if you suffer another concussion, the effects might be the same? I'm no doctor, so I don't know these answers. I don't know if one day he's able to finally get out from underneath that WWE contract, because I'm sure that, much like the Rey Mysterio situation, he's probably, his contract's not moving forward because he's injured and he's not performing. So he probably has a few years left, and I don't know how he will ever get out of it. But if he was able to get out of it, could he go somewhere else? Could he go work Japan, or could he go work fucking Ring of Honor or something like that? A farewell tour of sorts, maybe. Maybe the WWE just doesn't want to risk it under their umbrella. Maybe somebody else is willing to. But, Daniel Bryan said it himself. He's got a great wife. He wants to start having kids. He's a new chapter in his life. So I don't think he's itching or chomping at the bit to get back in the ring. But if 5 years pass and Daniel Bryan's only 39, 40 years old, and, a couple of doctors talk to him and say, yeah, you can come back for a match, would he? So, this is a situation where, yes, it feels legit, and he's definitely retired for the moment, but maybe there's a chance in the future Daniel Bryan puts on the tights again. It's not likely, but it's also, I guess, not completely out of the question. I guess just considering the circumstances. So thank you for everything, sir. You are one hell of a wrestler, and you entertain the hell out of me, and I know everybody else listening to this. I'm going to try to make this a little more upbeat now and actually talk about Monday Night Raw. We're going to talk a little bit about Fastlane, and I'll mention, of course, the Super Bowl from last night and my thoughts on that game. I'll briefly touch on that at the end. As far as Monday Night Raw goes, Daniel Bryan's hometown of Seattle, they were jacked for this. There was good crowd reaction all night. I was very happy with the crowd participation. They opened the show with Stephanie in the ring getting ready for the contract signing for Fastlane between Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, and Dean Ambrose. Stephanie starts talking, hyping Fastlane, and just fucking running her mouth, and Dean Ambrose just interrupts her, shows up down in the ring. This guy's nuts. He's so funny right now. I'm really entertained by Dean Ambrose. He comes in, cuts Stephanie off, and she's like, dude, you're early, but whatever. And he's like, I just want to get this contract signed. I got a bone to pick with Brock Lesnar, called him a big ape, and seems completely fearless of the Beast incarnate. Roman Reigns' music then hits. He comes down through the crowd and gets in the ring to stand with Dean Ambrose as they await Brock Lesnar. And Stephanie makes a funny comment. Did you catch that? How she says, hey, Dean, isn't it funny how Roman always comes out and steals your spotlight or whatever? So maybe a tease, because you got to think, and I'll talk about WrestleMania here soon, but you got to think something's got to happen. Somebody's got to go heel. They got to do fucking something. So, I think an Ambrose heel turn and an eventual program with Reigns is very likely. When that's going to happen, I don't know, but, Stephanie might have planted a little seed there. Brock comes out next and gets in the ring. Paul Heyman doesn't even cut much of a promo. Stephanie says, hold the phone, Paul. We all know who you are. Let's get this thing signed. Dean signs it. Roman signs it. Brock signs it. Stephanie grabs it and says, my work is done, and gets the hell out of there. And then Ambrose just steps right up and gets right in Brock Lesnar's face. Like Brock is the one that should be scared of him. Unbelievably fearless, Dean Ambrose, hilarious. And man, was Brock on fire tonight. He came out with so much energy, too. When his music hit, he came running out there and bouncing around. I mean, sometimes Brock is a little more, slower and, I don't know, lethargic looking. He was just, he looked like a house of fire tonight. Ambrose gets in his face. He just swats him away and then picks up the table and slams it into Roman Reigns. He flies out of the ring, picks up Dean Ambrose and hits him with the F5. Everything happened in a blink of an eye. Within 5 seconds, Brock Lesnar took out Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose and was up the ramp with Paul Heyman. Crowd went nuts for it, too. Brock was awesome tonight. I love that segment. I love the way he just easily disposed of the two of those guys so quickly. They cut to commercial, I think, and come back, and Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns are in the back, and Dean says that he's not done yet. He's going to, if it's the last thing he does before the night's over, he's going to get his hands on Brock Lesnar. So they left that door open. You knew that Brock and Dean were going to have another confrontation later on in the night, and they did. Ambrose comes out, an hour or so later, and calls out Brock Lesnar, and Brock kind of comes out and walks around. He's just kind of smiling, like Brock thinks all of this is amusing. Dean Ambrose is like, what, is that all you got? Hit me with an F5. It felt like an F2. You can give me an F10, an F30, an F150. I don't give a shit, So Dean is, really wanting himself a piece of Brock Lesnar. Brock's coming out there. He's kind of circling the ring, like a shark. Or he does that after. Dean attacks him, doesn't he? He flies through the ropes and starts attacking Brock. And he just shoves him down and then proceeds to kick the fucking shit out of Dean Ambrose. He's laughing. He's giggling. Ambrose is eating and ass-kicking and asking for more. Gets nailed with 2 F5s, and then finally Brock decides to leave him alone in the middle of the ring and starts walking away, and Dean Ambrose is like calling him back. Come on, give me more, big man. And as soon as Brock gets in the ring and puts his hands on him, then Roman Reigns' music hits. He comes out on the ramp, distracting Brock, and Dean nails him with a nut shot. If there's one thing we know about Brock, is he will go down like a ton of bricks to a nut shot. And Dean, that was the only offense he had. He hit him one time. So I think Dean is a really interesting wild card in the Fastlane match. I'm really interested, maybe now a little more in that match since Dean is so fearless. And, when you look ahead to WrestleMania, I've talked about this before, and I'll talk more about WrestleMania probably next week. And, of course, as soon as Fastlane is over. But, I got to remain optimistic because I've said this in the last couple of years. Right now, it looks like the direction is going to be Triple H versus Roman Reigns for the WWE title. If that indeed happens, Roman Reigns is an almost guarantee to win that. And WrestleMania is in Dallas with 100,000 people there. Could even be more, who knows? And they really want to go with that main event with Roman Reigns winning and 100,000, a tenth of a million people, motherfuckers, booing this guy's brains out. Is that what they want? They got to understand that is going to be a huge catastrophic mess if they decide to go in that direction. And there's enough people in the WWE working there that somebody has come to that realization. So I'm not completely sold that we're just going to see a straight up match between Triple H and Roman Reigns wins, and that's it. There's got to be something else. Whether they try to incorporate The Rock, whether they make it a 3-way title match, or they add some other elements in there. Maybe Dean is involved because Dean is obviously acting crazy right now. Maybe they get him involved in that main event somehow, or they do something to spice it up to where, if the match is good, it shouldn't matter if Roman Reigns wins or not. But right now, this direction that they look like they're going to go in, it doesn't look promising if it's going to be the main event of WrestleMania. Now, they still have to get there first, which means Roman Reigns somehow has to come out of that Fastlane match as the winner. Now, how is he going to do that with Brock looking so dominant? He still has this unfinished business with the Wyatt family. Bray Wyatt was not on Raw last week because of the illness to his grandfather, but he was this week, and so was Brock. Why does Brock not want to get his hands on the Wyatt family? Why is Brock not pissed off at the Wyatt family? Is it going to take the match to happen and then Bray Wyatt interferes and costs Brock the match? Is that what's going to have to happen to get this match at WrestleMania? And I'm not even completely thrilled about that. Now, Bray Wyatt looked awesome tonight. They completely destroyed Ryback. And why the fuck did Ryback have a video package earlier in the night? I know he's sporting some new ring gear, but I'm sorry, this guy is not over. If I was typing that, it would be all capital letters. Is not over. If Roman Reigns is not over, then this motherfucker is really not over. So he has a video package that almost looked like they were hyping him up, and then he ends up having a match with Bray Wyatt and gets beat. Sweet-ass finish, by the way. What did he go for, the spear, and Bray caught him and hit him with the Sister Abigail? That was awesome. And then the Wyatt family completely destroyed him. So they've destroyed Kane, they've destroyed the Big Show, and now they've destroyed Ryback. So what does this mean? Are all three of them going to team up and face these guys at Fastlane or something? And how is Bray Wyatt going to work himself into a feud with Brock Lesnar? And how's that going to work? You know, let's say it is Brock and Bray at WrestleMania. What is Bray doing that would make us think that he has any chance to win that match? Every time he's been in there with a major player, he's lost. John Cena, Undertaker, Roman Reigns, he's pretty much gone down to all of those men. So what makes us think he has a chance to beat Brock Lesnar? It can't be a straight-up match because Bray is not to that level. I think the match itself will be great and fun. I'm not against the idea. What are they going to do to make us think that Bray can actually win this thing? Is it going to be a handicap match? I mentioned last week maybe Brock teams up with Taker because he needs an opponent, but you know, that seems silly, putting those two big icons together at WrestleMania when your when your roster is already kind of depleted. You know, you need those guys in separate matches. So there's still a lot of unanswered questions, and that's why I'm not ready to completely take a shit on WrestleMania yet, because we haven't even gotten to Fastlane. So, you know, there's a lot of road ahead of us. We were all complaining the last 2 years. We complained before WrestleMania 30. We complained before WrestleMania 31. Both of those shows turned out great. So, I mean, who's to think that WrestleMania 32 won't be the same way? We got to get a little bit closer to the show before I decide to pull down my pants and take a dump on it. And let's also move along quickly to what else we saw on Monday Night Raw. I'll be pretty quick about the rest of these results because I want to recap the Fastlane card and then talk a little bit about the Super Bowl. So I'll try to wrap this up quick. Ziggler and Kevin Owens wrestled again in yet another match. This time Ziggler got the victory with some help from the middle rope. He cheated to get the pin. Now, they got to do something at Fastlane here. They've been wrestling every single week for the past couple of weeks, and I mentioned in my last commentary that I see like a 2 out of 3 falls match or some sort of a stipulation match, maybe an Iron Man match taking place. To me, that seems like the most likely scenario. We also saw Charlotte get a victory over Alicia Fox, part of Team Bella. Now, Charlotte is getting a match with Brie Bella. Brie's getting a shot at the title at Fastlane. Now, with all this Daniel Bryan stuff, you got to wonder, Brie might win the belt here. You know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of Christian, when Christian won the world title right after Edge retired. I'm wondering if they give Brie the women's title just to give her something that her husband might appreciate, maybe a feel-good moment for the fans. It might be the only way Brie beating Charlotte will be acceptable to the fans is if Daniel Bryan is somehow tied into it. So under normal circumstances, I would never predict Brie to defeat Charlotte in a match, but maybe when I do my predictions next week, I might just pick her. I loved the Miz TV segment as well. That was hilarious. Miz is out there, who got his teeth cracked, by the way. All right, AJ, take it easy, buddy. You've had 3 matches in WWE. You're already knocking guys' teeth out. Pretty gnarly, too. I saw that replay, and like half of Miz's side of his mouth was missing. So he got a few of his chiclets knocked right out by AJ Styles, and couldn't happen to a nicer guy, to be honest with you. But he's in there. Miz is such a great heel. When he's out there wearing that dress, being such a douchebag, I love him. I know I say I hate him, but I also love him. He's so good. And then Jericho interrupts him, and the funniest thing, I don't think we've ever seen this before. I don't know if Roddy Piper ever crashed a snake pit and turned the snake pit into the Piper's pit, but Jericho came out there and changed Miz TV into the highlight reel. He threw all his chairs out of the ring. They put the fucking Y2J carpet down. The obscenely expensive Geratron 6500 comes down, and it's now the highlight reel. That's the first time we've ever seen, you know, a talk show change right in the middle like that. That I really liked. The fans were into it too. Jericho was pretty funny. Miz and Jericho, started brawling, or Miz attacked Jericho, and then AJ came out, kind of made the save, and then him and Jericho stared each other down. They're going to have another match on SmackDown, by the way, so it's not one we're going to see at Fastlane unless they still make that match. I'm actually smelling a 3-way or something at Fastlane. I'm almost thinking Miz and Jericho and AJ might be involved in something at the pay-per-view, but Jericho and AJ will wrestle again on SmackDown, and they brawled a little bit, and Miz kept trying to get involved, and they kept kicking him out and brawling some more. So looks like there's a little heat there between Jericho and AJ now. They're going to have a very spirited in-ring contest, I think, on SmackDown, and it will probably lead to something at Fastlane, I guess. Adam Rose was out there with the rest of the social nutcases, and he actually defeated Titus O'Neil in a match, which I was pretty surprised about. Alberto Del Rio and Rusev beat the Lucha Dragons. Now Sin Cara is back. So the tag team is back together, but you got one half of that tag team as the United States champion. Alberto Del Rio also got the pin on Kalisto in that match. And, of course, they have the rematch for the U.S. title at Fastlane, and a lot of people are thinking that that's going to be the end of Kalisto's run, that Alberto will take it back because Kalisto's won all their previous matches, mostly, and gotten the better of Del Rio, and now his tag team partner's back, so, you know, you got to think they're going to go back to tag teams, so maybe he's going to drop the belt. You know, I'm almost wondering if they're going to do the old switcheroo. You know, what is Sin Cara going to replace Kalisto during the match and, you know, force a false pin or something like that and distract Del Rio, and then Kalisto is able to get the victory somehow and retain the title. I almost think they might do something like that. Really goofy-ass segment with R-Truth and Goldust again. This time they're outside of museum in Seattle, and Goldust is dressed like Jimi Hendrix. Okay. Pretty funny stuff. I mean, shit, as long as we're talking about fucking brain damage and shit, you might want to give Goldust's head a look. Holy shit. You know, this guy's just as nuts as ever. Looks like he's having a blast out there, and pretty funny in his Jimi Hendrix attire, and he smashed the guitar and all that. So I don't know what's going on with those two. Eventually, they're going to have a tag team, I guess. Tamina also beat Becky Lynch, and there's a really weird match that was just announced for Fastlane. It's Becky Lynch teaming up with Sasha, who they're a little bit at odds. It's not like they're friends, and they're taking on Tamina and Naomi, the other 2/3 of Team Bad. So you have 1/3 of Team Bad teaming up with 1/3 of Team PCB to take on 2/3 of Team Bad. I'm really bad at fractions. Can't make heads or tails of any of the shit that's going on in the Divas division. So anyway, the final thing I want to talk about as far as Monday Night Raw goes is we had a heel turn. The Dudley Boys finally turned heel. Finally, they're doing something. They have been stale and floundering pretty much since the moment they got there. They had an 8-man tag match tonight where they teamed up with the Usos to take on the New Day and Mark Henry. New Day was forced to go around and find a tag team partner when the Dudleys approached the Usos backstage earlier on in the show and said they want to have a match, a tables match with the New Day as well, and they think it should be all 4 of them taking on 3 members of the New Day and a partner of their choosing. They choose Mark Henry. Mark Henry doesn't really wind up liking those guys and leaves the match, says, fuck you, I'm out of here, leaving them all by themselves. And the only thing that was weird about this is I think the heel turn should have happened during the match. I think it would have been, you know, because I already knew it was going to happen because I didn't watch Raw live. So when I was watching the match, I'm like, are they going to do it here? Are they going to do it here? But no, they went through the entire match, ended up beating the New Day, and then kicked the Usos' ass after the fact. So I think it would have been a little bit more shocking maybe if it happened spontaneously during the match or something like that. But, you know, still nice to see that the Dudley Boys are going to be moving on to something a little bit better. So that is pretty much all I'm going to talk about as far as Raw goes. That's the show in a nutshell. Tonight was really about one thing and one thing only, and that was Daniel Bryan. Before I get out of here, I will mention the Super Bowl last night. I was happy with the outcome. You know, I mean, I used to live in North Carolina. I lived there for 20 years. And but to me, I'm a sucker for like legacies and stuff. And Peyton Manning is one of my all-time favorite players of all time. To me, he's another guy that has so much class and dignity and professionalism about him, and that you just have to admire the guy. And he's never been anything but good for football and for the game. And I think he embodies what most professional athletes should want to be as far as how they handle themselves, you know, and their maturity level and all of that. So I've always been a big Peyton Manning fan, liked him a lot more than Tom Brady. I think him and Tom Brady are polar opposites. Peyton Manning's the good old boy who married his high school sweetheart, and Tom Brady's the douchebag who dates supermodels and, you know, and all of that. So Peyton Manning is just a much more likable figure, and I've always had so much respect for him. And for it to be Super Bowl 50 this year, and for this to pretty much be his last year, and for them to make the playoffs and beat Tom Brady along the way, which is a huge rival of his. Tom Brady has won most of the head-to-head matchups with Peyton Manning, so for him to slay that beast, you know, which he's done before in the postseason, but this one felt a little bit sweeter, and go on to win the 50th Super Bowl, which I think was also like his 200th career win, and there was all these other records tied into it. He was the first quarterback ever to lead 2 teams to the Super Bowl. It's amazing that that's never been done before, but it hasn't. So I think if you were writing the story, the NFL story, you know, from a WWE perspective, the right outcome was for Peyton to win the Super Bowl and ride off into the sunset. I don't have any blind allegiances to teams. I loved what the Carolina Panthers did all year. I thought they were a really fun team to watch. Cam Newton is super goddamn talented and did a great job this year. They won every game but one. I was one of the guys standing up for the team because everybody was like, oh, they're not as good as their record. I'm like, you know what? You can't fucking blame that on Carolina. All they can do is go out there and play, and you can't do any better than winning them all, and they damn near did that. So I don't know what anybody wanted out of Carolina. To me, they were just going out there and playing who was in front of them and beating them, every single one. But I also knew when they had the Super Bowl matchup with the Broncos, I'm like, yeah, fuck, experience beats youth every time. The Carolina Panthers were probably jittery, very nervous. Cam Newton, this big stage like this. Denver was just there 2 years ago. Peyton has been there many times. They were cool. They were calm. They were collected. Their defense played out of their mind. Fucking Von Miller, won that game for Denver because Peyton Manning, as we've seen, is not the quarterback he once was. One of the worst quarterback ratings, or the worst, I think, in history to ever start a Super Bowl. So they got there on truly a team effort and defense, and that was fun to watch them pick apart the Panthers like that. They were lost as shit. So, for me, I technically would have been happy either way because I have a lot of friends and a lot of love for my former home state, North Carolina. The Panthers have only been around since 1993, so they're still fresh to me. They still feel like an expansion team to me, so it's not like they've been there forever. But still, I do root for the Panthers whenever I can, and I do like them, just like I root for the Chargers, where I live now, and I was born in Detroit, and I'll always root for the Lions as well. So, I'm not one just to have some sort of crazy blind love for my team. I wasn't just going to automatically root for Carolina. I was going to look at the situation and say, I don't even give a shit about Denver. I don't give two fucks about the Denver Broncos at all. I care about Peyton Manning, and he just happens to be on the Broncos. No matter who Peyton Manning played for, I would be rooting for him. No matter who, even if it was the Patriots, even if it was some team I hated, if Peyton Manning was the captain of that team, I would be rooting for that team. That's how much I respect the man. And come on, little brother Eli can't have more Super Bowl rings than him. Jesus. So Peyton Manning absolutely had to win this game, and I'm so glad that they did. Very surprising because Carolina was favored pretty heavily too, and Denver, just their defense played lights out. It was completely unreal. Congratulations to the Denver Broncos. Congratulations to Peyton Manning. Yes, I know you are going to retire. That's another classy thing about Peyton Manning is he didn't announce it, during the Super Bowl trophy presentation. He didn't want to take away from the team or make the story about him. He's going to hold off and probably announce his retirement in a week or two. It's pretty funny to hear him talk about drinking beer. Budweiser, too. Come on, Peyton. You're a multi-millionaire. Don't drink that shit. You know how nasty Budweiser is? Drink some good beer. I even laughed today in the news and stuff. They were speculating, why would Peyton do that? And he also hugged the Papa John's owner, who he's done a shitload of commercials for. And they're wondering if there's like these ulterior motives and shit. I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think Peyton Manning cares to make a couple of extra $1 million on an advertising fucking mention or something. He's got enough money. But I did find it funny that he did talk about Budweiser a couple of times. I was just happy the guy drank. To me, he's like Kurt Angle. What are you going to do, go out and have a bunch of glasses of milk? So just the very idea that Peyton Manning can toss back a few from time to time, makes me like him even more. So for me, I was perfectly happy and satisfied with the outcome of the Super Bowl. I think it was the right thing, and it was something that was important and special because this is a breed of quarterback that we're not going to see again, and it was very special. And we look back at Super Bowl 50. Where were you when Peyton Manning retired by winning the 50th Super Bowl? It's something that you always remember, I will be up here next week after Raw. I believe that's the go-home show to Fastlane, so I will be up here with some predictions. Still working hard on my WrestleMania Memories commentary as well. Hope to have that up by March 1st. Right now it's on schedule for that, so there shouldn't be any issues. It's going to be a lot of fun. You guys have a great week. Until next time, peace.